Well, welcome everyone to this week's Menlo Midweek podcast. My name is Mark. Phil is back.
I'm back, everybody.
Woo! It's been a minute, Phil.
It's been a minute, dude. And we're in like a house rental, so honestly, I just kind of feel like I'm on the road all the time right now.
Well, it's great to have you back.
Glad to be back.
And we have Suzy with us today for the first time.
Hello.
Hi. Suzy Deline, she's here. She's been a longtime volunteer with us online, has helped out behind the scenes on Sundays and on the podcast. And so this is your first time in front of the cameras.
I am thrilled. I never miss a podcast. Although, to be fair,
true, actually.
I pretty much listen to them. So getting to be, both on and in. It's an honor and a privilege. Thanks.
Yeah. Suzy, can you give us a little bit more about your history of when you started to get involved at Menlo and how that's gotten you to here?
Yeah, so I grew up on a farm in the Midwest, went to school in Chicago, but I had the opportunity to move out to the Bay Area, so of course I did. Who was ragging on California? It was the last podcast. People were ragging on California.
Well, I had two non-Californians here with me, which isn't, actually, most of the time it's non-Californians that are on here, but yes, those two specifically. Both East Coasters and talking about how much they hated California when they first moved here.
I'm so excited to get here. I'm still excited to be here. I got here in the 90s. Wish I had bought a house right away, but I did buy one in the early aughts, so that was good.
There you go.
And I've worked at tech companies for the last 20, 30 years, give or take. And I've been coming to Menlo since 93. I was dragged here by people at Intel who said, this is the best youth group. And it was a great youth group, but it was just, it's been a great church home for the decades. And over the years, I can't remember how many sermons have said, get off the sidelines, get in the game. And so to Mark being able to let me do things that I'm really excited to do, to volunteer. Well, I mean, what a privilege. What a treat.
Well, it's great having you, Suzy. And,
Thanks.
Whenever we come out with something, I have a few people in my mind that I think about before I either release something or if we're making something behind the scenes. There's a Jenny Gerlach filter. Shout out Jenny that I try to look at it through. There's a Suzy filter, and there's a few others. And so, Suzy, you've had a huge impact on just what we've done here with online. So just thank you for all that you've done, and excited to have you on the podcast more often. And what a weekend to kick it off. We're kicking off a new series coming out of a series about doubt. And kind of, it feels like it dovetails pretty well into numbness because it feels like part of the spiral that you talked about, Phil, how doubt can lead to so many other things. So, Phil, for those that might have missed it, why don't you give us a quick summary of our first week of Numb and Number?
Yeah, so we started a study through the book of Jonah, which is a prophet in the Hebrew Scriptures. Different prophets are really snapshots in time, the way that God would speak to his people and the way that we, through the Hebrew Scriptures, largely post the first 5 books of the Bible, the Pentateuch. The way we know the history of Israel is through the prophets, major and minor prophets. And so in Jonah's case, we talked about how he is at a unique moment where the northern kingdom, Israel's divided. The northern kingdom is economically strong and spiritually weak. And he, out of that, where he's doing well, he's prominent figure. He's been a prophet for a while. We're 750 or so years before Jesus' earthly ministry. God would normally have said, hey, here's a message that I have for you to give to my people. And it might be encouraging. A lot of times it was challenging. Sometimes it was very challenging. But what was really unique is that God said, I want you to go to Nineveh and preach against them because their evil has come before me. So in other words, like their evil is just like it's hit some tipping point where God goes, I'm not willing to just let this go unchecked anymore. I want you to go yell at him about it. And Jonah really does not want to do that. Like is very, very against that idea. And what's really interesting about Jonah is for a lot of the prophets, the book is really mostly that prophet talking. And then you would have sort of God's words through the prophet in the time. For Jonah, we're actually not entirely sure who wrote the book. So some people are like, well, it was Jonah that wrote the book, which is entirely possible. But you're like, bro, you threw some shade on yourself. Like, I mean, it's not written in a way that's very flattering to him.
And he doesn't seem like the kind of guy that would not unflatter himself.
Yeah. Feels like he would have been gassing himself up pretty good.
Yeah, for
so,
sure.
It's like, was this oral tradition that eventually got written down? Whatever. And so but because of that, we get these like glimpses they're almost like overly honest in a way that you wouldn't expect. And so in chapter 1, he leaves, and it's a few hundred miles one way to Nineveh, where God's calling to go, and thousands of miles in the opposite direction to Tarshish, where he's trying to go. And he chooses Tarshish, and the text tells us that the reason he does it is because he's trying to escape the presence of God. Which, like, you don't have to be much of a Bible person to be like, I don't know a lot about God, but I don't think you can run from him. Like, I think he's faster than me. He's so much faster than you. You can't imagine. He's omnipresent. He exists in every place, no matter how fast you run or how far you run. God is with you for every step, and he's there before you get there. But that's the plan. And so he gets on a boat, tries to get there. He's with a group of sailors. He's fallen asleep in the boat, and there's a storm that God brings to get his attention, to get him to go where he wants him to go. All these sailors who are not Israelites, they're trying to pray to their gods. Their gods are doing nothing, obviously, because they don't exist. And then the captain finds Jonah, says, hey, add your God to the mix, man. Like, what are you doing? And they cast lots. They throw dice to see who is the person that did it. They find out it's Jonah. He finally confesses. He says, throw me in the water. He's like, I'd rather die than do what God wants me to do, which is an interesting take. They throw him in. The storm stops. The sailors worship God, and the chapter that we finished with the whale swallowing Jonah up. And so I think, this picture of Jonah had decided in his mind that there are people that were less deserving of God's love than he was. And so probably a kind of a cocktail of fear. He tries to run from the presence of God. He tries to numb himself out. He tries to pass out in the belly of the ship to just not even have to be literally conscious for the moment of it. And the unchurched, the pagan sailors are the ones who demonstrate reverence for God, worship God, make oaths to God in a chapter where the prophet of God stays silent for as long as he possibly can.
I think I heard you say this at some point throughout last week when we were prepping for this message, but this feels like one of those things where there are 1,000 different ways that you could slice this story.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if the Bible is like this in general, right? It's like a diamond, so it's just facets that you turn, and based on the circumstance you're in, based on the context that you're in, based on the people that you're preaching to. But yeah, Jonah, I mean, you could take any number of different, you could take any of the scenes that we looked at and just like original call, Jonah's comfortable, doing great in Northern Kingdom, gets tapped on the shoulder by God, I got another mission for you. You could make a whole message about that. Some of you think you're past your prime, you did what you needed to do for God, and God's saying, no. Like there's another thing for you. You could take him in Joppa with all these different places of freedom to choose from, even still the option to be obedient to God, even delaying a decision, and he makes the worst possible decision. And what are you doing? You're in Joppa right now in your life. You could take him on the boat, and the captain of the ship goes down to Jonah and says, what are you doing, man? Wake up. And you have someone that doesn't know God telling you to wake up to give a message to them that God's going to use in amazing ways. So you could take any of these individual scenes and kind of stretch it out, look at it for the setting that you're in. But I think for us, trying to take these next few weeks and tell the story of Jonah in bigger scenes that highlights the similarities between where he let himself get to as someone that took God's love for granted and what happens when we do the same thing.
Wow. Yeah. So many different ways, man. My mind's going in so many different places. Suzy, I know that you mentioned to me a few times the observations that you made around this, and we chatted about it a bit. So what were some things that stuck out for you from Phil's message, and do you have any questions for him?
Well, so again, we all know this story, right, from like flannel graph as little kids. Yeah. But, as you look at it at certain points in your life, I think the thing that jumps out is, we all numb ourselves, right? Because we look at what's going on, all the noise, all the problems, and we feel like there's nothing we can do. Like, again, I'd never really thought about Jonah as being prominent, right? That prophets were prominent. But then I'm thinking about what he did, and I'm like, oh, that's what quiet quitting looked like back in those days. He didn't want to.
the first quiet quitter. I love it.
Right? He doesn't like. he doesn't,
Yeah.
I don't know if he like told anybody at his church where he was going. He's just like, I'm, as far as they know,
Going on a business trip.
Yep.
right? And, again, numbing. He doesn't, because we hear plenty of stories, right, where people yell at God and say, I'm not going to do it. But we don't
Right.
get that, right? He's just like, can't do it, can't deal. And golly, I got so many people in my life. You look at all the noise going on and they're like, I can't do it, I can't deal. And so we numb
Yeah.
with the things you talk about, with the drinking, with the entertaining, with the binging. And, honestly, this story is relevant. It pokes us. And, I hope that everybody who listens gets the poke that they need or that they're able to be open to
Yeah.
unnumbing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As you were talking, it's almost like, our version of numbness would be what the sailors were doing, probably. They could have been clean sailors. That could have been a thing back then.
It wasn't.
Probably not.
It was not.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a stretch to probably say they were involved in a lot of things. And just the idea of them all coming together and like, okay, I did this. Was it me? It wasn't?
Yeah.
Okay, what did you do? Was it him? No, okay, it's your turn. And then the guy that's just like, oh, I'm running away from God.
Yeah.
Which feels like probably the most benign thing out of all of their answers, which was actually like that was the thing.
Yeah.
That still is wild to me right now to think about that interaction.
Well, and that interaction without the storm, they're laughing at him.
Right.
If it's a normal, and he's got guys have come under conviction, we should probably turn around. I'm running from God. They'd be like, okay, whatever,
dude.
man.
Yeah.
But it's like, wait a second, we're all going to die. All of a sudden, you're listening a little bit more attentively, and you're like, there's a force bigger than us that's causing this. That dude's running from a force that's supposedly bigger than all of this. Maybe he's causing this. I guess we're going to see if he can swim,
Yeah. And that, we were kind of chatting around your message after one of the times you delivered it, Phil, and we just made an observation essentially saying, like, I wonder what it was like after they threw him in, the storm quit. They were the ones that were like, hey, maybe God's a real thing.
Yeah.
And the way that Jonah was actually able to witness to them without knowing he was witnessing to them is another thing that I'm just like, I'm still thinking about.
Just think of like the person that you right now have just gone, I could never tell them about my faith. I could never describe the gospel. I could never tell them I go to church. Just imagine God creating circumstances in your life that were so undeniable that it forced you to do it. That's what happens here.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And God's just getting started in the story with doing that with Jonah.
Yeah. Do you think Jonah knew he was what we would describe as numb? Like when we're prescribing him as numb, if he was to sit in that moment, I'm just thinking of like, as someone that's listening to this and they're like, oh, I'm totally not Jonah, when in actuality they might be more like Jonah than they want to admit. Was there any, like, how can we help people figure out, hey, I might be more like Jonah than I originally thought that I was?
I think that the easiest way for us to spot it is to be able to look at points in our life when we definitely weren't.
That's,
If you go like, hey, Jonah, tell me about your first year as a prophet. And I think Jonah would have been like, man, I was so on fire. Like I was so passionate about what God was telling me and so hopeful that God would bring about a national revival in Israel and seeing people really not just like with their actions, but seeing people with their attitudes turn back to Yahweh. I think he would have talked like that. And then, hey, how different is that than how you feel now? And I think it would have been like, well, I was young and naive back then. They would have said stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I think, I don't know if Jonah would have ever gotten there in the story. Not to give you like too much of a spoiler, but at the end of the book, he's sitting on a hill and there's a plant that God makes grow that gives Jonah shade. And then the plant goes away and Jonah's angry at God. He's demonstrating more compassion for the plant than the people of Nineveh. And I think that's just like a very unique, bold take of entitlement that I think maybe Jonah could have gotten there. Like, hey, dude, can we talk about the spirit of entitlement that you've just like assumed you deserve this, you get this? I think maybe you could have gotten him to be there. Yeah. And I think that oftentimes entitlement is the first step to numbing, right? Like when I feel entitled to this, it means that I don't think you are. And it means that I'm going to preserve this feeling, this standard of living, whatever, regardless of what I have to do. And anything that would threaten this, I'll just elbow out. I think oftentimes entitlement is the first step on the path towards numbness.
Yeah. Wow. Suzy, I know that you've been a Christian for a long time. You've lived a lot of different lives as well.
Yeah.
And probably a big part of your story were probably times of numbness as well, whether that was professionally or personally. And so what were some of the things that helped you hold on to God during those times?
I'll be frank. Those that know me, God went to all the trouble to break my leg in business school because I had wandered. I was numb. And from a keg stand, I broke my leg at a keg stand.
Oh, this is literal.
Beautiful.
Dressed
I thought
as
this
Wonder
was like
Woman.
a metaphor.
Nope. The Hash House Harriers. Anybody know what the Hash House
man, I have
Harriers
no
do?
idea.
Yeah, they are drinkers with a running problem. Anyhow, I had wandered, and so I break my leg, and the only person who can drive me to business school, he's like, hey Suzy, I hope you don't mind. I go by the Kellogg Christian Fellowship on my way to class, which of course, and I'm like, okay, God, I hear you. Yes, I'm back. I'm back. But then again, so I've been very lucky in that God pokes me, and I'm like, I remember.
Yeah.
I remember. And, frankly, it hasn't been, I haven't needed tragedy or, disillusionment, but, sometimes you do. And sometimes that is what brings people back. So I've been really grateful that I've been able to see the pokes that life has unnumbed me with.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. Well,
We're going to dive a lot deeper later in our series around numbness, but I have a question, Phil, from you that I would assume other people have as well that I want to pass on. We see Jonah as a prophet. What qualified him as a prophet, and are there still prophets today? I mean, if I'm trying to explain this story to a person hasn't heard it before, and then there's a prophet that got swallowed, what does that mean, and what would that look like in today's context?
Yeah, I mean, if you go on YouTube, you'll find some people who say they're prophets for sure. Yeah. I mean, so at the time, prophet was a very unique and specific office of the Jewish people for Israel during a specific point in history. And they were appointed. So, like, usually you would have a prophet that was getting a vision from God about even potentially their successor. We see that with people like Elijah. I think, the thing, so that was typically how you got anointed a prophet. The way you lost being a prophet is you were wrong. So that's like a crazy thing.
No.
Don't tell the YouTube prophets. Because it was a one strike and you're out problem. And the penalty, we don't know how often this penalty was actually enacted, but the penalty according to the law for being wrong as a prophet was death. So if you said, God says this is going to happen and it didn't happen, you die. And so there were not a lot of people lining up to be prophets as a result of that. It probably got a little looser during the intertestamental period between the Hebrew Scriptures and the New Testament, about 400 years where God did not have a prophet. He did not speak through people. I mean, he spoke through people, but not that way. And then what we see in the New Testament church is that God gave people gifts. And so one of those gifts was kind of this idea of like a prophetic voice. There are different people that are going to say that means something different, and that's fine. I mean, that's totally normal. I think the idea of like a office of a prophet, that does not exist anymore. But someone that goes, I feel like God's given me, I think at Menlo, the way we would describe someone with the gift of prophecy is that they have the capacity to be able to take God's word, apply it to a present context with future implications, right? Like, hey, here's what the Bible says. Here's what it points to in our world today. And I wonder if perhaps what that's looking like is, what this could become is, right? If somebody says, if you come from a more charismatic or Pentecostal background, you may hear someone say, I have a word for you. And what they mean is like they believe that they have a specific prophetic gift that God has given them specific words that they're supposed to share with specific people. I would say the people in my life who have been most enthusiastic about sharing those words with me, I have the least amount of confidence in the words that they're sharing with me. And the people in my life who have been humble and kind and careful and thoughtful, who say that, like, I listen. But I think that there's a lot of discernment that has to be applied to what that looks like and feels like. But the idea of like, hey, this is the word for all of America, or this is the word for the whole church. I think that really looks more like the office of prophet in the Hebrew Scriptures, and then the ultimate prophecy that we see in like Daniel or Thessalonians or Revelation. That prophecy's already been written, like it's already closed. So you may have someone that exposits or interprets that, but the idea that somebody's going to be like, I have new revelation from God. Revelation's got some things to say about that.
Yeah, interesting. I love that the first qualifier there is it takes something from the Bible. It's not just a, hey, God told me that you and I are supposed to get married.
Right. It's going to be a problem that both of our wives will have with that.
Exactly.
For sure.
But yeah,
God said you're supposed to give me money. I've heard preachers do that. For sure.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that you can get wonky with. But Phil, I really appreciate how you kicked off this series and really looking forward to what we have coming up. Next weekend is an invite weekend.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
It's, I think, the first time that we're doing it.
First time we've done it.
So, Phil, what the heck is that?
Yeah, I just think that we do this great at Menlo for stuff like Christmas and Easter. We're really intentional. And we let you know, like, hey, we're going to build this service with your friends, neighbors, family members, coworkers in mind. And there's to a certain extent that we do that all the time, but we like really go in on those weekends. And so I think the idea was, hey, I think maybe God wants us to do that more than just twice a year.
Yeah.
Not only to encourage people like you should be more invitational in your life, but also for us as a church to create some milestones to go like, hey, what are the things we need to do in this service to be intentionally not weird? What are some things we can do on our campuses to become intentionally more welcoming? And so they become sort of church level deadlines for us to make some stuff better, to create great experiences, to have welcoming environments, and then to make sure that like when you invite people on Invite Weekend, you know, this last weekend's a good example where I'm not necessarily explicitly saying, hey, the good news of Jesus or the gospel, the thing that sets Christianity apart from other world religions is everybody else says do, this is how you get to God on your own. Biblical Christianity says that Jesus accomplishes it for us. It's already done. Here's the path to experience that for yourself. I don't do that every single weekend, but every Invite Weekend we'll do it.
Yep.
And not only, I mean, I think long-term, the commitment I hope we get to make is not just, we're not just going to do that in the sanctuary. We're not going to do that at an auditorium at a campus. Every environment with every age and stage, from kids all the way through adults, the gospel will get shared every single Invite Weekend. So I think that's the hope of it. This is our first run at it out the gate. It's been fun to see the way that the team, I think, has responded to the conversation. But Javon will be preaching. He'll be taking our next section of Jonah. And so it's going to be kind of Jonah, belly of the whale, really good opportunity to talk about to people that feel like they're in the belly of the whale, that God loves you. And, you know, there's a numbness that church people do, but there's a numbness that unchurched people do too. And there's a lot of, I think, very unifying opportunity to follow Jesus in it.
I think so too. The way that I've been trying to describe this to people that are like, what is this? How can we help get ready for this? It just won't be weird. Like that's the like if it feels weird, or if it feels like what's happening next or what was that, then we missed the mark.
Right.
And so that's our commitment to everyone, is that it won't be weird.
Yep.
It'll be, if you invite someone, we understand that there's an a kind of a social risk that can come along
For sure.
with inviting a coworker or a spouse or someone else to come with you to church. And we will do our best to not make it weird. So that's coming up next weekend. We also have some events. Saratoga's doing some stuff for Halloween, which will be really fun.
Well, and Parents' Night Out.
And Parents' Night Out, Suzy, yep. So check menlo.church/connect for anything that's coming up for the rest of October and into November. And again, if you need any prayer encouragement or want to send any questions into the podcast, we'd love to pass those on for you. You can text our team at 650-600-0402. Suzy, thanks for hanging out with us. Phil, thanks for being on. Welcome back.
Got to be back.
Have a good week, everybody, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.